This is a series we've been doing, and what we're trying to do is promote, honestly, RTTY contesting. We think the more people that do it, the more fun it is. And so we've had a whole series of workshops on RTTY. Jay, WS7I, and Randy, K7TQ, have taught all those. And we've tended to try, after we did a couple of beginning ones, focus on a particular contest. Well, tonight, Randy, who is just a superb contester. In fact, I'll just give him a little kudos on this. At the IARQ last summer, he set a world record for our call area, and all-time record. So in a low sun spot, he still set a record. So I'll give him kudos for that. But Randy's going to talk, obviously this weekend is the CQ Worldwide WPX RTTY Contest. And so we're going to focus on that. And with that, I will, by the way, I should tell Randy, we have people from Whidbey Island, from Kingston, from Olympia, from Napa. I'm sure I've left a few people out, but anyway, we've got a good group here from a wide variety. All three clubs are represented. So Randy, I'll turn it to you, and then you, I'll make it where you can share your screen too, just a moment. Okay.
Hey, thank you, Mel. And thank everybody for showing up. I select the right screen here. Okay. This is the CQ WPX RTTY Contest homepage. It's always a good idea to first take a look at the rules. Before we do that, as Mel said, it's February 13th and 14th, which is this weekend. It starts at 0 hours Greenwich Saturday, which is 4 p.m. Friday night our time, and it ends at 23:59 GMT Sunday. So that's 3:59. That's not 4 o'clock. It's 3:59 on Sunday. So let's take a look at the rules and the things of interest here. I'll just go over them in various orders. The exchange is one of the simplest ones, although it's not one of those that just automatically fills in itself, but it's a signal report, which is always 599 no matter what. And it's in RTTY, it's 599. It's not 5NN. 599, and then a serial number starting with 001 or just 1, and then it goes up to as high as you might imagine, over 2,000. You probably copy some over 2,000. Period of operation here, it's the entire 48 hours, but single operators only operate 30 of the 48 hours, and you have to take at least an hour of off time for it to be counted as off time. And so that 60 minutes is really 61 minutes. So if you make a contact at 0300, your next contact would be at 0401. Otherwise, it's not an off time. So operate 30 out of the 48 hours. So that gives you 18 hours of sleeping time or time to be away from the radio. And if you want to have somebody multi-op with you, then you can operate all of the 48 hours. The bands are the usual contest bands, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. And then here it says, observe, establish band plans is strongly encouraged. That sort of means that you should operate where RTTY is expected and all. Scoring is different. The multipliers are not countries or zones, they're prefixes. For example, WA0 is a prefix, so that's a multiplier. K7TQ, K7 is a multiplier. So it's the different prefixes you work. It's not where the counties are located. At least that's for the prefix multipliers. QSO points, they're detailed here, but the things to remember is you get more points for getting off of North American continent, so Europe and Asia, South America. You get more points, or you still get points for on the same continent, so XEs and VEs are worth points, and you get contacts for the same country, so any contact with a U.S. station is also worth points. Some of the other contests, you don't get any points for working U.S. stations, but in this one, you get points for working U.S. stations. Then the other good thing to remember, and it's again on those 3 lines, is that you get more points. You get twice as many points for working 80 meters and 40 meters. So it's good to work 40 and 80. Let's see what else here. So that for the good contacts, where are there lots of prefixes? Well, there's lots of prefixes in Europe because there are lots of countries there. There's lots of prefixes in Japan, so that's a good place to work. And then several countries in South America with oddball prefixes. And you'll hear a fair number of what I consider oddball prefixes, like the 3 numbers or various prefixes that you don't hear very often. And here's all the rest of the rules, but they're pretty much the standard one. Oh, the other point worth mentioning is that there's no separate category for the use of spotting networks. So if you want to use those, you don't have to be in a different category. And what that kind of boils down to, in my opinion, is do you want to have somebody help you with finding where the stations are, or do you want the satisfaction of doing it yourself? There's both ways to do it. Both ways can be fun and rewarding. One of the things Mel wanted me to talk about is the macros. And since the focus of this is on N1MM, that's what I'll talk about. This is the N1MM homepage. And to find the macros that they recommend, the default macros, you go to downloads here, and then category menu, and then scroll down to function key files digital, and select that. And here's a whole bunch of them, but we go over here to search and type in WPX, hit the enter, and there's CQ WPX RTTY MC, which means macro. So click on that, and here's a little bit that tells you about who wrote it. K7TQ, Larry wrote that. He does a lot of stuff for N1MM. And here's the download. So you choose that. There. And so it downloaded, and I've downloaded it a couple of times. Okay, then we need to make a few changes to it. So I use Notepad, but you can use any ASCII editor. Don't use a word processing editor. And we'll open it, and it went to downloads. And we have to, in this one, look at all the files because it's not a text. And there it is right there, CQ WPX MC. Open it up. And right off, it says here, edits required before using this file. Non-inter sends message, no changes required. So if you're not going to use ESM, they're the inter sends message, which I recommend that you do use that because it makes things a whole lot simpler. But some people like to push the individual function keys, so you don't need to change anything. But if you do inter sends message, you need to change the F2 key, the run F2 key, to remove the enter and the first exclamation mark to avoid double sending as call sign. The exclamation mark is the shorthand way of sending what's in the entry window in the call sign box. So we go down here to F2 right here and put the cursor there and eliminate the enter, or yeah, eliminate the enter and the exclamation mark. and a little space before the RST is nice. Cent RST is in there. Really, I'm not sure why, but well, I know why it's in there. It's because it's kind of a leftover from other contests. But if you don't, for some odd reason, don't want to send 599, if you time things just right, you can type in a 579. So just leave it in for now. If you understand how all this works, then you can leave it out. But if this is your first time using N1MM, just leave it in there. It'll default to 599 and you don't have to do anything about it. So we take that out.
Could we just type 599?
Yes, you can do that. You mean instead of cent RST?
Right.
Yes, you can do that. I was trying to keep things simple as possible without without changing anything, without changing much. Okay, so now then, that's all we need to change. A couple of comments on this. All these pound signs, that means that's a remark. And then the first 12 lines, no matter what the label is, but the first 12 lines are the run macros. And then the next 12 lines that don't have comments, again, here's the S&P message with a comment in front of it. The next 12 are the S&P search in pounds. N1MM sets things up to either be in the run mode or in an S&P mode. So all these are good. So we need to save it. So we save as, we don't want to save it back to downloads. And in this one, you want to save it to where your N1MM logger is, the part that can change, not the part that doesn't change. So mine is on the D drive, and so you click on N1MM, and then function key messages, and I keep them in two different folders, CW and RTTY, but you don't have to do that. So there's CW, and then over here, this is just looking for text documents, so we want all of them, and we want to save this without the one as MC. Okay, and now we're good to go on that. So that this is all set up. It works fine. It's most everything you need. You could customize this a little bit, but that works great, particularly if you're doing this for the first time. Just let it be that. Now then, the next thing we want to do is let's set up N1MM. I have two different INI files, one for RTTY and one for CW, and we have not talked about different INI files, which might be a topic for another workshop. On my radio, if I don't have the radio on and I don't have it set up in RTTY, then many of these decode windows will close because because the radio is set for CW. So you always, at least for an Elecraft, at least for mine, I've got to have the radio on and in RTTY mode. So here's my typical setup for a RTTY contest. Two-tone decode windows. That's these two right here. Probably ought to put an antenna on it so at least we get a little noise. And I've got it on that it doesn't transmit anything. Okay, so two-tone decode windows. And you need these to have different algorithms to be able to detect the characters well. One is, and that's set in this little box right here. So the one is set for selective and one is set for flutter. There's 3 or 4 of them. So 2 of them take care of most of the decoding that you would do. Selective, what the editor or the author of two-tone says is that selective is good for when mark and space tones fade independently of each other. And then flutter, which is what I have the other one set for, is for slow to very rapid fading conditions. Then the third one that he recommends is called spread, and he says it's not common, but it's most often used for transpolar paths, which I thought was more for the selective. But anyway, make sure you have these two set up differently, one for flutter, one for selective. So this decode window comes down and shows up here, and this one shows up over there, and there are no signals on the band. Oh, the other bad thing, I didn't get it turned on quick enough, so it came up and it said PSK. I'm gonna close that and try this again.
So you're basically running MMTTY and two-tone windows, is that it?
That's how it appears, because right here it says MMTTY. That's where you got that question from? Okay. No, I'm not running MMTTY. I'm running two-tone windows. I consider this a leftover from before two-tone came along. The only other decoder that was software, it was a sound card based, or at least the one that was most often used, was MMTTY. So that's what N1MM labeled it, and they leave that name up there, even though what I'm using is two-tone.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then here's one more decoder over here, and it is gritty. And I've got two screens, and I'm only sharing one at a time. And this is what gritty looks like. It's just another decode window, but two is usually good enough, although gritty is good too. So that's a pretty typical setup, which we've talked about before. Here's a band map over here, and I have my rotor that is hooked in to N1MM. So now then this time it shows RTTY, not PSK. Again, that was a function because I didn't have the radio on soon enough when I started N1MM. So to get a new contest, it's File, New Log in whatever database. So you go up here, you type in a C, and it takes you to the Cs. And we look down and we're looking for CQ WPX RTTY, that one right there. So you select it. And then you need to fill these things in: single op, all band, power. I only run 100 watts. And then fixed and assisted or non-assisted. Again, there's no difference in the categories for scoring. So I run assisted, 1. And the cent exchange, this pound sign takes the place of a number, and it will increment it. So you want to leave that pound sign there. That was the default. Then over here in the associated files, it's not CW, it's not sideband. So digital function key file, we go over here and we change that. And here, N1MM now makes it, well, they have for the last several months, make it so that it will go out and automatically find the latest file for you. But we made a different one, or we modified that one. So is it okay to download and assign it to the CQ WPX RTTY Contest? No. So it'll bring up what do you want? So here it is. Went to my function keys. I'll go to the RTTY, and then here's CQ WPX RTTY MC. So we open that, and it filled it in. We can leave the master SCP alone. The big thing here is you want your macro file there, and we hit OK, and it fills it in, or it uses it. And here you choose between search and pounce and run. So I'll go through one example of how you might use this. So I want to run. So I can use the mouse, and I'll hit the F1, and it's sending CQ WPX K7TQ CQ. And suppose I hear WA0 WWW, and so I type in his call, or I can catch it with the mouse, but I can't do that on this. So I go over here and he sends me, or I see 005. Well, it's the other way around, my mistake. First we hit the enter key. And so we send him 599-001-001, send it twice. And then he sends back 005, and you hit the enter. And it says, thank you, WA0, WWW, and K7TQ, QRZ.
Excuse me, do you type in the leading zeros?
Yeah.
Do you type in leading
zeros? You can type
zeros?
them in, or you can leave them out. It's up to you. I've read several times from people who actually do the log checking that they don't care if you put in 00101 or 1.
Thank you.
Okay. I said that you didn't need to modify the macro file, but personally, I don't like this QRZ at the end with a question mark. I prefer CQ rather than QRZ. Somebody sees a question mark, then to me, it leaves them with a doubt. Well, did he really get it or not? So let's go over here and right click any of these, and it brings up the editor for that. So that was, all right, that's the F3 key. So let's just take this out and put in CQ or nothing. One other thing that you've got to match up these TX and RX symbols. If you don't, then your radio will stay on all the time. So we save that. Now the next time around, it's not going to put that QRZ with a question mark after it. All right, let's see what other little things here. Oh, we should have done this before we started the contest, but I kind of got things out of order. Tools. Download and install the latest check partial file. So we clicked that, and it went out and it found it and it saved it. So we got the latest one of those, so we're good. And then tools. Next thing we want to do is import the latest country files from downloaded file. Nope. Download and install latest country file. That's what we just did. Here it is. Download and install check partial. And so it did that. So you want to do those two things so that you have the latest things there. Suppose you're searching bouncing and you see N7 GCO, and you either type it in or with your mouse, you go up there and you click on it and it fills it in, and you send your call. I didn't look at this very carefully. We don't want that either. I'll fix that in a second. So he comes back to somebody else. So he space over, and what he sent was 85. So if you do a control U, it will increment that serial number one time. And so that it'll be ready for it when he comes back to you. So you hit the space bar and you go back over to there to have your cursor in the call window. And then this time you send that mess again, which again I will fix up, because that's not a good way to do it. I didn't think that was in the default one. And this time he does come back to you. So you space over and it's already filled in the 86 because you hit the control U to increment the serial number.
Question, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, my thought was normally, maybe it's alt U toggles between run and search and pounce. Is it alt or control? Anyway, what I was wondering, if when you're in the receive field, it'll increment the number by 1 if you hit a control U. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's a new one. Thank you. I never knew that.
Yep. I'm not, you ought to check it. I'm not sure you have to be in the receive number box. I'll just try it, control U. You don't have to be over there in the box.
Okay.
Control U will increment at one time. One thing you need to watch out for, though, in this contest, and maybe other ones as well, if somebody's running SO2R, they've got 2 radios, then they may their goal is to make a contact on one radio, and then while that's going on, make a contact on another one. So they may increment that number may go up by 2, not just by 1. So you still need to watch what's being sent, but it's a handy way to be ready for the next number. Also, multi-op station, or not multi-op, but multi stations. Each band will have its own set of numbers. So it might not all, well, it will always work, but it might not really be the number that you want. But still, I think it's a nice little trick. Let's go back and fix that other thing. So we right check on that. So here in S&P, call him F4. All we want is my call. You don't need to send his call. He knows his call. So you just want my call. So I should have taken that out at the beginning. I didn't see that. And I think it's nice to have a space there so it doesn't, your call doesn't get, or my call doesn't get jammed up against the garbage that usually comes through. So this time we try again. And this time it's just K7TQ, just our call. And Mel comes back to us and he indeed sends the 87. So we hit the enter. And there it sent that.
I don't see a log. Is there a log somewhere?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I've got that on the other screen too. It's tough to get everything on the little screen. Well, it's not a little screen, but everything on the screen.
Okay, there we go.
So there's the log. Okay. All right. And I suppose in reality, even though I like to see both of these 2 decode windows, they show the same thing. So you don't need to really see both of them. So I could put it right there and everything fits. Okay. Thanks for asking that. I intended to bring that in. All right. Okay. One more thing. Let's go back to something that's a little, I'm going to send CQ, but let's suppose that I start the CQ, but then just before I go to hit the F1 key or the enter key to send the CQ, I hear somebody calling me, but I've already hit the key to start the CQ. So here it comes. But if I hit the escape key, it'll stop sending whatever was going on. Okay, particularly if you have break-in in CW, that's a very nice thing. So here's something going, oh, I don't really want to send that, or I hit the wrong function key. Hit the escape and it will stop sending anything, stop sending everything, and put you back in the receive mode. So the escape key. Then one other thing that is kind of useful sometimes, or is useful at times. Suppose that you want to say something that you don't have a function key for. maybe things are slow and it's not, nobody's in a big hurry because it's late at night and you want to say, hello, Mel. So if you hit Alt T, it will put you into transmit. There's the transmit. And then here, whatever you type here will be sent. And then you hit the escape to get rid of it. And you can also use that, for example, suppose somebody asks for the number. So you hit the Alt T and a space and 004, 004, 004, and you hit the escape. Okay. It's better to have that programmed into a function key, but that's another way to repeat things. And then one more that I'll throw out that let's say, well, let's call CQ here. And let's suppose NS7I, NS7I calls us. So we type that in and we hit the enter. And there goes that. And let's suppose that he sends back again. Well, what he really wants is he just wants the serial number. So you would send that again, 003, 003, 003. But other times it's useful just to send everything that you sent before. If you hit the equal key, it will send whatever was sent last time. So that's the equal key, and it'll do that several times. It'll remember what you sent last time. Okay, so now NS7I comes. So this time he says, okay, and he sends us 057. So we type in 057 or we click on it with the mouse and we say, thank you, NS7I, K7TQ, CQ. And then one more thing that you don't really need. You don't need that DE in there either, because everybody knows that's knows those two different call signs, and particularly when I have CQ after. So I should take that out too, but I'm not going to go through that again for you. Okay. So that was not a very good explanation of N1MM, but we've talked about it before, and maybe hopefully I gave you a few key hints that would help you out. Simple contest, 599, and a serial number, and the serial number goes up by 1 or sometimes by 2 or 3 every time around. Another thing Mel asked me to talk about was strategy. So this is often called, this being WPX and WPX RTTY, are rate fests. So the higher the rate, the more likely you're going to get the different multipliers. So rate is king here. So if you want a high score, then you need rate. And the best way, or a good way to help that, is with the cluster. And again, the cluster then puts you in a different category, so you don't have to be concerned about that. So what you got to decide is, do you want to help and high score, or do you want to just take it easy and maybe find new countries that you haven't worked before, or new band countries? And those two kind of go together, but not really so much. So for the high score option, operate the full 30 hours. That's kind of obvious, but a lot of people forget that. If you want the high score, you need to operate as much as possible. And then because 80 and 40 give you extra points, you want to be on more in the 80 and in the 40, say, than in the 20 and the 15. So when are 80 and 40 good? Well, 42 JA land is good in our morning, early before the sun comes up, typically from about 2 o'clock in the morning until 8 or so in the morning, our time. And both, well, it's best on Saturday morning as opposed to Sunday morning, because Sunday morning is Monday in Japan, and there'd be fewer, typically there's fewer people on. So operate when JA is open. lots of stations in Europe, but it's tough on Friday night and Saturday to get through all the East Coasters, but sometimes you can have good luck at that. Then South America is good on 20 and 15 in our afternoon. So that's a good time to operate there. If you just want, not just, certainly nothing wrong with it. If you want new countries or you want to add to your band country or your band countries, then probably 15 and 20, whenever that country is likely to be heard, is a good time. 15 was pretty decent in the last contest a couple of weeks ago. So we got a shot at that. And then, as most of you know anyway, Sunday, it's almost always easier to work Europeans than it is on Saturday. And again, you can use a cluster, except that everybody's going to see that rare station or that country that you want within seconds of, or certainly within minutes of when you see it. So you don't have to choose those, but those are the kind of the ends of the spectrum. Do you want high score, so you're right all the time? Send CQ, use the cluster to find things. Just go down the band map as fast as you can with the control down arrow and the control up arrow to pick up those stations that were spotted by the cluster. Okay. I'll close this out and then I'll show you a couple of things that I think are quite interesting to give you a little help and some clues, some ideas. This is VOA cap online for ham radio. It says that right here. And it's based on VOA cap program, which is a propagation prediction program. And this one is all graphical interface. So here I have Moscow, which here's a DN16 MR, and you can put in DN17, whatever your location is in Spokane or out there on the west side, the wet side, to be the start. That drags around. And then you can drag this around to wherever you want to talk to. Well, Mel said earlier today that Tunisia was going to be on. So there's Tunisia. And so we got the path to Tunisia. Then we need to look at these items over here. For CW, it makes predictions for CW, WSPR, FT8, FT4, sideband, and AM. It doesn't have a RTTY one, so I just left it as CW. I don't run 1500 watts. I don't know a whole lot of people that do run 1500 watts RTTY, but you can choose that. But also has 100 watts. But let's leave it at 1500 watts because the big stations that you got a hope of being able to talk to are probably going to run a lot of power. And then antennas, there's a whole bunch of antennas in here built in. The defaults are I believe are dipoles at the proper height. So that's a reasonable default. And then if we look at this, well, it does propagation charts, but you got to be familiar with those. Propagation wheel, that's much simpler to figure out. Out here around the edge are hours in Greenwich time. So this is 0 Greenwich or 4 p.m. our time. It goes around this way. Then these concentric circles, they're the bands, and they have more than just the contest bands. So if we wanted to talk to Tunisia, or if we wanted to have a reasonable chance of working Tunisia on 20 meters, we'd go to this circle right here and find the darkest colors. And this graph is signal to noise ratio, or probability of making the contact. So we want the darkest colors. So these 70, 80, 90, 100s. So a good time for Tunisia on 20 would be from 1500 to 2000 Greenwich time. 1500 is 12, 13, 14, 15 is 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. our time until noon or so. And then it gets less and less. And then 40 picks up about when you would expect, and 80 even later at night. And this is based on predicted sunspot number. It's not a real-time estimate, but the program goes off and finds what the predictions are for the time that you have set on this calendar right here, and I have it set for right now, and it shows the gray line here. So let's suppose you wanted to go over and work on those Eastern Europeans that have lots of prefixes. And this map scrolls so you can move it around. And as soon as you move one of these endpoints, this wheel changes. So for Eastern Europeans on 20, down here, 1600 is a good time. And then 40 meters at or early in the evening, and 80. So a lot of the stuff that you already know, but it's nice to be able to see it. A couple of things I think are interesting. Why do we always work so many EAs? Well, you got a lot more reds in there for EAs than you do for say, G's for England. And you can play around with this a lot. One other thing of interest I'll show you. How about going to Hawaii? It says we can get Hawaii just about any time that we want, as long as we're willing to pick a band. Up here to Alaska, same thing. Whoops. I don't know why it breaks that, but it does. Over here to JA land. Again, why we know. So a nice little tool to help you out, and you can make. This program has lots of other things, but I find the propagation wheel of most use. South America, 15. Oh, well, not South America, South Africa. Let's go down here and look at Argentina. This says 15 has a really good chance, and maybe even some 10. Anyway, a tool that I think is fun to play with, mess around with, and has more stuff on it than I've explained, but it has a help as well. So that's VOA Cap on, excuse me, online for ham radio. So you can just Google that and you can find the URL for it. So anybody have any other questions or other comments? Oh, one thing I will throw out before I open it up. Put this back out of the way. Mel mentioned, or it was mentioned, the latest two-tone. Here's where you get it. WWW RTTY Contest.com downloads two-tone, and it's this first one right here. So the other piece is that I would add to the comment about whether this is useful to get is if your processor is reasonably new, and it talks about this in the email that Murph forwarded to everybody. If your processor can handle a certain language, I guess the way I would describe it, then two-tone will use more threads and be faster, at least. We'll see if it makes a big difference or not. I'm not sure that many of us will be able to tell the difference. But anyway, that's where you get the latest two-tone, and the two PDFs that come with that are quite useful. Here's one, demystifying N1MM in RTTY, and that's in the two-tone setup PDF, and it comes from this download. It's part of the zip file. And the other good piece here is it tells you how to set up two-tone in the different windows and how to make additional receive windows. It's been so long since I've done that, I don't remember well how to do that. Mine just comes up that way, but Here's another one, flutter and selectivity. So that PDF alone is worth downloading this, even if you don't use the 64-bit one. And the 32-bit one works fine too. Okay.